This assignment is called Do As I Say, Not As I Do. It deals with a text that I'm going to read here and a few questions. The main idea with the assignment is that after having read the text, you would have some knowledge about something called incentive schemes. And we're going to look at an ad campaign that you can explain why and how it functions using the information in the text. We can also find examples of banned ads in the campaign or retracted ads in the campaign, and you could probably understand why they were not successful or why they were not actually aired because of the information in the text. So I'm going to read you the text here and then explain a bit more about the questions at the end. This is an excerpt from a very good book called Think Like a Freak by Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner. The problem is that while some incentives are obvious, many aren't, and simply asking people what they want or need doesn't necessarily work. Let's face it, human beings aren't the most candid animals on the planet. We'll often say one thing and do another, or more precisely, we'll say what we think other people want to hear and then, in private, do what we want. In economics, these are known as declared preferences and revealed preferences, and there's often a hefty gap between the two. When trying to figure out what kind of incentive will work in a given situation, it is crucial to keep your eye on this gap. Thus, the old saying, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. Furthermore, it's often the case that when you most desperately want to know someone else's incentives, in a negotiation for instance, your incentives and theirs are at odds. How can you determine someone's true incentives? Experiments can help. The psychologist Robert Cialdini, an eminence gris in the study of social influence, has proved this again and again. In one case, he and some fellow researchers wanted to learn about the incentives that would encourage people to use less electricity at home. They began with a phone survey. The researchers called a diverse set of California residents and asked them, how important are the following factors in your decision to conserve energy? 1. It saves money. 2. It protects the environment. 3. It benefits society. And 4. A lot of other people are trying to do it. Let's see what we have here. A financial incentive, number 1, a moral incentive, number 2, a social incentive, number 3, and what might be called a herd mentality incentive, number 4. How would you guess the Californians ranked their reasons for saving energy? Here are their answers from most important to least. 1. It protects the environment. 2. It benefits society. 3. It saves money. And 4. A lot of other people are trying to do it. That seems about right, doesn't it? Since conservation is largely seen as a moral and social issue, the moral and social incentives are most important. Next came the financial incentive, and in dead last, the herd mentality. This too seems sensible. Who would admit to doing anything, especially an act as important as conservation, just because everyone else is doing it? The phone survey told Cialdini and his colleagues what people said about conservation, but did their actions match their words? To find out, the researchers followed up with a field experiment. Going house to house in one California neighborhood, they hung on each doorknob a placard encouraging residents to save energy in the warm months by using a fan rather than air conditioning. But this being an experiment, the placards were not identical. There were 5 versions. One had a generic energy conservation headline, while the others bore headlines that matched up to the 4 incentives: moral, social, financial, and herd mentality from the phone survey. 1. Protect the environment by conserving energy. 2. Do your part to conserve energy for future generations. 3. Save money by conserving energy. 4. Join your neighbors in conserving energy. The explanatory text on each placard was also different. The Protect the Environment placard, for instance, said that you can prevent the release of up to 262 pounds of greenhouse gases per month. The Join Your Neighbors version merely said that 77% of local residents often use fans instead of air conditioning. The researchers, having randomly distributed the different placards, were now able to measure the actual energy used in each home to see which of the placards made the most difference. If the phone survey was to be believed, the Protect the Environment and Do Your Part for Future Generations placards would work best, while the Join Your Neighbors sign would fail. Is that what happened? Not even close. The clear winner of the four was Join Your Neighbors. That's right. The herd mentality incentive beat out the moral, social, and financial incentives. Does this surprise you? If so, maybe it shouldn't. Look around the world and you'll find overwhelming evidence of the herd mentality at work. It influences virtually every aspect of our behavior and what we buy, where we eat, how we vote. You may not like this idea. None of us wants to admit that we are pack animals, but in a complicated world, running with the herd can make sense. Who has time to think through every decision and all the facts behind it? If everybody around you thinks that conserving energy is a good idea, well, maybe it is. So if you're the person designing an incentive scheme, you can use this knowledge to herd people into doing the right thing, even if they're doing it for the wrong reasons. Okay, so that's the text. Here are a few tasks, and they deal with trying to analyze a specific ad campaign using the information in the text. It's a very long-running campaign, and the video you see here is a video celebrating the 30 years this campaign had been going on when this video was aired. Here are a few examples of this very long-running campaign, featuring famous athletes and musicians. Why do you think these people were chosen? Why football players and not athletes from other sports such as badminton or soccer? Why country musicians but not hip-hop artists or opera singers? Connect your answer to the text you just read and use the required words and phrases in your answer. So I listed a few required words from the words and expressions at the bottom of this page here. Here you have a lot of expressions and words in the text that are very useful. Please do use these when you're answering the question. Question 2. Here's an example of an ad in the campaign that was filmed but not aired. Using what we now know about how incentives work, how can we explain that the idea for this specific ad was probably a bad one? And here you have Matthew McConaughey in his band Don't Mess with Texas ad. Right, good luck, my friends.